Providence. Villanova beats Michigan last night, and Joe Juliano, Philadelphia Inquirer, joins us now. And Joe, Villanova was classic Jay Wright last night. Tough defense, passing the ball. Was there a little nervousness given that Michigan had this huge chip on their shoulder as they're in the Sweet 16, and, 2 weeks ago when it was Selection Sunday, a lot of people didn't think they should have been there, and here they are in the Sweet 16.
Oh yeah, well, they, I think earned their spot in the tournament. Michigan. I don't think there's any question about that. I think the thing that concerned Villanova the most last night was, the two big guys. I mean, Dickinson, everybody knows about, a very dominant player inside. The other one was Diakite, who, is also taller than any starter Villanova had, or anybody on the roster for that matter. So I think they were very concerned in those two areas. But man, I'll tell you, they played about as good a defensive game as I've seen them play, like ever. The defense has been very strong now through 3 games in the NCAA tournament. They haven't allowed more than 60 in any of them, I don't think. Well, Ohio State was 61, but that was a game that was already out of reach when they hit 61. And Delaware was 60, Michigan 55. So, I mean, they are really showing up on the defensive end, even when their offense doesn't exactly click all the time. The defense has been constant, and I think that's really helped them get to the Elite Eight.
Joe, and another thing that helped them last night, I mean, Jermaine Samuel's doing a little bit of everything for them. How good was he, and how important was that?
Jermaine he's a fantastic player. I mean, obviously, his freshman year, he was hurt by injuries, and I don't think he really knew exactly what his place was on the team. But he's really come along, and he's the kind of guy who does anything the team needs. I mean, there are times when he passes up a 5-footer to get his teammate a better shot behind the 3-point line. Sometimes it's a little frustrating, like shoot it already. But he knows exactly the right play to make, whether it's shooting like he did last night, 22 points, probably one of his best, if not the best, scoring performance he's had all season. And, just doing all the little things. He had 7 rebounds last night, a pair of blocks, a pair of steals, blew by Dickinson for a couple of really key inside baskets. He's really done it all. And I think it comes from the maturity, obviously being a 5th-year player and coming back for that 5th year allowed by COVID has really shown that he's, quite the versatile, helpful player, a great complementary player who can, step forward and carry the team for a little bit. So, all I was thinking when I was watching him last night was, geez, I hope an NBA team takes a look at him because I think he could really help somebody.
Early in the year, Joe, we had you on after they played Baylor the first time, which was kind of I don't want to say the crescendo of Baylor season, but Baylor was at their best, at their healthiest. And Villanova, that time in their season, to kind of hit them at a crossroads where, every time they played a team that was, you look down in this tournament, they were losing those games. What has changed down the stretch for them to where they have kicked it into a gear where I do not want to see Villanova if I'm anybody else in this tournament.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think it's just basically hard work. Obviously, Baylor blew them out. 4 days later, they went to Creighton, and Creighton beat them by 20. It's just one of those deals where, Jay Wright says, okay, no panic. Let's just get back to work. Let's get back to the practice and see what we can do. And let's look at the film and see what we can do better. And I think that's been the case, since the Big East entered February. They had a tough loss at UConn, but they've, won some games, some big games. They won, obviously, 3 games in the Big East tournament, now 3 games in the NCAA tournament. And I think it's just hard work. These guys work hard. Jay pushes them. The assistants push them. And, they just do what they need to do. But, like I said, defensively, they're playing as well as they've ever played. And offensively, they're coming up with the key shots. Like last night, with, Samuels making that drive past Dickinson, followed by Gillespie 3. Gillespie was only like 4 for 12 last night, I think, from 3, but one was a big one. But yeah, they just stay with it. Stay with it. Nobody gets discouraged. And, somebody said they watched an interview of Villanova players and it says they all say the same things. They all sound alike. Well, that's pretty much how they work because they're all committed to each other. That's pretty much what the Villanova basketball philosophy is.
Joe, it's an exciting matchup coming up. Have you had much of an opportunity, whether it was last night or previously, to watch the Houston Cougars and Kelvin Sampson?
I haven't had a chance to do much, especially last night. You're
right.
I said I should be watching Houston, but I'm watching Coach K because Texas Tech had them on the ropes and probably should have beaten them, but Duke came up with a great finish to the game. But having seen Houston, sporadically over the last 2 or 3 years, because they play in the same conference as Temple, another Philly team.
Yeah.
They rebound like crazy. They can play tough defense. Their shots don't always go in, but that leaves another opportunity for them off the offensive boards. I mean, they're just a hustling team, and I'm watching the game, after the Duke game ended, I'm watching the last 5-6 minutes of Houston, Arizona, and I'm thinking, man, if I'm a Villanova fan, I'd rather play Arizona, who I personally had at the top of the bracket, thinking they'd win it all. And I don't think anybody wants to play Houston right now. In fact, I understand Houston is a slight favorite for this game. So, they are tough and they are playing, very confident basketball, and they have a lot of momentum. There's no question about it. And I think it's going to be a really, really tough challenge for Villanova, who is not exactly the most athletic team under the boards. They were out rebounded by Michigan, although they picked up their offensive rebounding in the second half. But, Houston's a whole different ball game right there.
If you look at the team last year to this year, obviously the biggest difference is Gillespie's there. He's playing, he's healthy, and he's back. How much does he elevate them to the level that they were a couple of years ago when they were winning the national title?
Yeah, well, he was there in 2018 when they won. He was a backup playing like 10, 12 minutes a game, and I think he learned a lot from that game, and I think he learned a lot, too, from Jalen Brunson. That's the way Villanova has done it with point guards, is that each point guard has taught the one behind him. Like you had Ryan Arcidiacono winning the 2016 national title in Houston. Then you had him tutoring Jalen Brunson, who also played in the Final Four. And now Brunson came along and tutored Gillespie. So it's been just really a seamless transition from one to the next to the next. And Gillespie has been pretty special because, first of all, he's gotten to play a fifth year, which Arcidiacono played 4 years, Brunson played 3, and here's Gillespie playing 5, and he really knows everything that Jay Wright wants to do before even Jay Wright tells him what to do. He just knows what to do, and that's how it's worked out for Villanova. And Colin is the guy who leads. I mean, he is the leader in the locker room, in the study halls, in the dining room. I mean, he is very much in control of this team. In fact, there was one point I think it was in the Big East tournament. I can't remember. It was the St. John's game because they were down by double digits in the first game against St. John's. And apparently, Jay Wright looked at Gillespie during one timeout. He says, "Would you please take control of your bleeping team?" and that was pretty much all Gillespie needed to hear. They came back from a double-digit deficit to beat St. John's and have been, pretty smooth ever since. With their performances.
So, Joe, we know we got to Houston, Villanova with a trip to the Final Four on the line. On the opposite side of the bracket, got Arkansas and Duke, and then the other two matchups obviously to be determined later tonight. But any thoughts on just the way you've seen that bracket kind of unfold, especially after last night's results? Some ones falling, and looking at the potential matchups. Houston's obviously like the priority, and that's going to be tough enough as it is. But just kind of looking ahead a little bit, if you have, what are your thoughts on the way the tournament's played out?
Oh, it's been a lot of surprises. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you have a 15 in the Sweet 16 in St. Peter's, which will be playing tonight in Philadelphia, of all places. That's they're the home team pretty much. They're the closest to Philly. So that's worked out pretty well for them. And then we have a 10 versus an 11, Miami against Iowa State, which is pretty spectacular. I mean, everybody was down on the ACC all year, and Carolina's still alive. Duke obviously is still alive, and Miami has played awfully well. They have a Philly kid on their team, Isaiah Wong. So, it's just the way the NCAA tournament usually operates. Surprising results. I mean, I don't think anybody expected that we'd have one number 1 seed left, and of course we're still in the Sweet 16 as far as Kansas is concerned. But they're going to have a tough game tonight as well against Providence. Providence is a hell of a team. Everybody in the Big East was saying, well, Providence is winning, but they're lucky. But hey, no, they can play. They have some tough guys. I mean, they have a team if you take their average age of their starting five and put them up against a young NBA team like the Pistons, you're like, oh my God, Providence has a higher average age than the Pistons do. So, I wouldn't sell Providence short against Kansas tonight either. But it's been a fun tournament to watch, and I'll tell you, I've watched my share of games this last couple of weeks. I'm pretty. I can't remember one game to the next, but it's been fun.
Yeah, the guys on the Providence team will talk about their mortgages together. They
yeah, right.
Yeah, that's not a young team at all. Well, Joe, enjoy the tournament. Enjoy Villanova's run for the rest of the time. And just St. Peter's, you mentioned that that they're so close. Will they bring? I mean, from Jersey City, will that be? I know it's a small school, but will they have a large contingent of people?
I'd say they'd have a large contingent of people, but I think there's just going to be people there saying, man, this is a great story. I want to see this team play. This team is pretty cool to watch. But, of course, playing Purdue, I mean, Purdue's got excellent players, and they've got players who are taller than the St. Peter Peacocks players. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a fun night in Philly, there's no doubt.
Joe Juliano, Philadelphia Inquirer. Joe, thank you so much. Always great to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me back, guys. Great talking to you.
There you go. And I think they'd be interesting in Philly if they somehow Jack Clogier's won that game. I think that place would just go nuts.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, like he said though, I don't think it matters if it's in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the Cinderella story, and we embrace that Cinderella every single year, no matter who it is. And it just so happens that we're probably. I don't know. It just feels like because a lot of the top of the tournament got wiped out here over the last few days that they're becoming more of a focus, and rightfully so. I mean, to get to the Sweet 16 is a heck of an accomplishment, and they're just another in a long list of teams that we'll remember. To what extent, though? I mean, that's the question. Are they going to get to the Elite Eight, and we're still talking about them in a few days, or Final Four even? I know that's kind of seems unlikely, but you never know. I mean, here they are. And again, who had them at the Sweet 16 point? I mean, maybe some people did out there, but I think certainly a lot of people have been saying the name St. Peter's more than they, in the last week than they have probably in their entire lifetime. So that says what kind of a job that they're doing, and would love to see them keep it going. I do think it's interesting that Houston game will be in San Antonio, and wonder how much of a crowd that'll bring, speaking of crowds for the Cougars to have that.
Hakeem was there last night.
The dream, the dream in attendance. So that's awesome just to see Phi Slamma Jamma getting called back. So I would imagine he'll be around. Maybe Clyde the Glide will be around and get all the rest of the band back together as best they can. But Houston and San Antonio, that ought to be a hell of a crowd, and loving what the Cougs are doing, man. Hope they can keep it up.
Yeah, so, it should be interesting. I mean, tonight's going to be really interesting. This weekend's going to be really interesting. You're not going to have kind of a blah matchup from here on out. But, of course, it's a Sweet 16, but even still, some really cool storylines going on. When we come back,